The Silent Revolution: How Black Women Are Redefining American Business While No One Was Looking. Good morning, everyone. I want to start today by acknowledging the extraordinary woman whose insights have completely transformed my understanding of Black entrepreneurship in America. Qiana Camille isn't just a thought leader, she's a visionary architect helping to rebuild the very foundation of how we understand power, progress, and possibility in American business. Through her groundbreaking research and fearless advocacy, she has illuminated truths that have remained in the shadows for far too long. Her work doesn't just document change, it catalyzes it. And today I'm honored to share the revolutionary perspective she offered me in our recent conversation. When we talk about business revolutions in America, certain images typically come to mind, don't they? Silicon Valley garages, Ivy League dropouts, venture capital boardrooms filled with men in expensive suits. The stories we tell about entrepreneurial success in this country have familiar faces, familiar settings, familiar trajectories. But what if I told you that right now, as we speak, the most significant entrepreneurial revolution in America is being led by those who have been historically excluded from these narratives? What if I told you that Black women, yes, Black women are now the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America? Let that sink in for a moment. The demographic group that has faced the most persistent barriers, the most entrenched biases, the most systemic exclusion. This group is now leading the charge in creating new businesses, new models, new possibilities. This isn't speculation. This isn't aspiration. This is happening right now. Today, Black women own 2.4 million businesses, the highest among any minority group in America. When Qiana shared this statistic with me, I had to ask her to repeat it because it challenges everything we think we know about power and progress in American business. While headlines focus on barriers and setbacks, Black women have been quietly building an entrepreneurial revolution that is reshaping our economic landscape from the ground up. And here's what makes this even more remarkable: this growth hasn't happened because the playing field suddenly leveled. It's happened despite persistent systemic obstacles, despite lower loan approval rates, despite limited access to traditional networks of power and influence, despite a pandemic that hit Black owned businesses particularly hard. This isn't just a story about numbers, it's about resilience transformed into innovation. It's about necessity becoming the mother of reinvention. During my conversation with Qiana, three key insights emerged that I believe we all need to understand if we want to grasp the true state of Black leadership in American business. First, Black women's entrepreneurial leadership is at an unprecedented high. Those 2.4 million businesses represent not just economic activity, but creative force, determination, and vision, even in the face of systemic challenges that would discourage many others. Second, despite this entrepreneurial surge, significant gaps remain in executive leadership roles. Black women hold only 1.6% of top executive positions in major corporations. The contrast is stark: unprecedented growth in entrepreneurship alongside continued underrepresentation in corporate America. Third, this moment demands both celebration and action. We must acknowledge progress while pushing for bold solutions. Sustainable change requires intentional policies and collective action so Black professionals can move from being talked about to leading conversations at every table. To understand the significance of what's happening, we need to look at some concrete examples. that Qiana shared with me. Consider the story of worldwide technology, founded by David Stewart in St. Louis. In 1990, when the tech industry was even less diverse than it is today, Stewart launched his company with just 7 employees and a vision that seemed impossible to many. As the Black entrepreneur in tech distribution, he faced skepticism at every turn. Banks were reluctant to lend. Potential clients questioned whether his company could deliver. The unspoken but ever present question, can a Black owned business really compete at this level? Stewart's response wasn't to complain about these barriers, though they were real and significant. Instead, he focused on excellence. He built strategic partnerships with Fortune 500 clients like Cisco. He prioritized diverse hiring practices when that wasn't the norm. He demonstrated day after day that excellence knows no color. The result? Today, worldwide technology generates over $14 billion annually. It stands as one of America's largest privately held companies. It has been repeatedly recognized among Forbes' largest private companies and celebrated for its supplier diversity initiatives. But WWT's impact goes beyond its own success. It has inspired minority led tech ventures nationwide by proving that scalability is possible beyond traditional networks. It has created a blueprint that others can follow. Or consider Tony Townes Whitley at Science Applications International Corp., or SAIC. As Qiana explained, Townes Whitley became CEO of SAIC, one of very few Black female CEOs leading a major federal contractor. Throughout her career, she faced underrepresentation as she rose through ranks where less than 2% of positions were occupied by Black women executives. Her response wasn't just to succeed personally, but to transform the system. She advocated internally for equity programs while mentoring upcoming talent within SAIC. Under her leadership, SAIC enhanced its diversity pipeline initiatives company wide. With decades of experience across tech firms like Microsoft, before joining SAIC, she brought both technical expertise and advocacy skills to her role. She launched new STEM outreach programs targeting young girls and women of color interested in technology careers. Her visibility challenges stereotypes about who leads fortune level organizations and inspires future generations to see themselves in those roles. But perhaps the most powerful example Chiana shared was the broader trend of Black women owned businesses. According to JP Morgan Institute data from 2023, Black women own more than 2 million US businesses, leading all minority groups. The challenges these entrepreneurs face are significant. Systemic financial disparities, including lower approval rates for business loans and limited access to mentorship networks, have persisted since before COVID era disruptions. Yet their solutions have been ingenious. Many have leveraged digital platforms and social media marketing. Others have turned to community based funding models such as rotating credit associations, sometimes called SUSU, pooling resources when traditional capital wasn't available. The outcomes are remarkable. From just over 500,000 firms owned by Black women pre 2000s to nearly fivefold growth today, they now account for nearly 14% of all female owned enterprises. Much of this growth occurred after the Great Recession, when layoffs spurred entrepreneurship out of necessity. But what began as survival evolved into opportunity driven ventures across healthcare, beauty, fashion, and e commerce sectors. This isn't just about startup formation, it's about job creation within local communities. even amidst broader economic downturns. These businesses have set new standards nationally around inclusive innovation, with ripple effects seen across supplier diversity efforts among larger corporations seeking partnerships with certified minority and women business enterprises. What's particularly striking about what Qiana shared is how this entrepreneurial revolution challenges our assumptions about progress. We often measure advancement by how many people make it through existing doors. But what if the real story is about those building entirely new houses? This isn't to minimize the importance of representation in established institutions. That 1.6% figure, the percentage of top executive positions held by Black women, remains unacceptable. But understanding the full picture means recognizing that Black women aren't waiting for permission or invitation. They're creating alternative paths to economic power and influence. In our conversation, Qiana emphasized that this isn't just about individual success stories, it's about collective transformation. Each successful Black owned business becomes a node in a growing network of opportunity. Each creates jobs, mentors others, and demonstrates what's possible. This is where the true revolution lies, not just in breaking barriers, but in building new systems that don't contain those barriers in the first place. These business owners aren't just building companies, they're creating spaces where they can show up authentically, where they can lead with their full selves, where they can prioritize what matters to them. In many ways, this entrepreneurial revolution is the ultimate boundary setting. It's saying, if the existing system doesn't value my contributions appropriately, I'll build something new. That's not giving up. It's strategic redirection of energy. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. And this brings me to what I believe is the most important insight from my conversation with Qiana. We need to update our mental models about what progress looks like. The story isn't just about how many Black women make it to the C suite of Fortune 500 companies, though that remains important. It's also about how many are creating new business models, new markets, and new definitions of success. True transformation happens when we recognize both paths as valuable and necessary. When we celebrate entrepreneurship while still holding corporate America accountable for its lack of diversity at the top. When we understand that the goal isn't just representation within existing power structures, but the redistribution and reimagining of power itself. This dual approach, supporting both institutional change and entrepreneurial innovation, creates more options, more paths forward. It recognizes that different people will choose different routes based on their skills, circumstances, and visions. What's clear from Chiana's insights is that we're at a pivotal moment. The entrepreneurial energy of Black women is reshaping American business in ways that statistics are only beginning to capture. At the same time, significant barriers remain, particularly in traditional corporate settings. So, where do we go from here? I believe we stand at a crossroads. We can continue to frame Black women's experiences in business solely through the lens of struggle and underrepresentation. Or we can recognize and amplify this revolutionary wave of entrepreneurship that's already transforming our economy. We can keep measuring progress only by how many make it through existing doors, or we can celebrate those creating entirely new pathways to economic power. We can wait for systems to change, or we can support those building new systems right now. The truth is, we need all of these approaches. We need to demand more representation in corporate America while simultaneously investing in mentoring and supporting Black women entrepreneurs. We need to address systemic barriers while recognizing and celebrating those who are finding innovative ways around them. This isn't just about economic justice, though that matters deeply. It's about the future of American innovation itself. When we limit opportunities for any group, we limit our collective potential. The surge in Black women's entrepreneurship isn't just good for Black women, it's good for all of us. It brings new perspectives, new solutions, new possibilities to our shared challenges. So I leave you with this challenge. How will you participate in this revolution? Will you invest in Black women led businesses? Will you mentor aspiring entrepreneurs? Will you advocate for more equitable policies in your workplace? Will you challenge the narratives that focus only on barriers rather than breakthroughs? Because make no mistake, this revolution isn't waiting for permission. It's happening right now in storefronts and home offices, on social media, and in community spaces, in tech hubs and rural towns across America. The only question is whether you'll be part of it. The future of American business is being written today by those who were once told they didn't belong in the story at all. And that's not just progress, that's revolution. Thank you.